The equation x squared plus y squared is equal to 1 will draw a circle of radius 1 centered at the origin in the xy plane. We use this equation to define both sine and cosine. So let's say you want to know sine of 45 degrees and cosine of 45 degrees. The way this works is you draw one side of your angle on the positive x-axis, and then you draw your other line at a 45-degree angle. So this is 45 degrees. And it will meet the circle at a point. This has an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. We call the x-coordinate cosine of the angle that we drew, which is 45 degrees, and by definition also, we call the y value sine of 45 degrees. I chose 45 degrees because this is the same thing as saying pi over 4 radians. So let's say you want to know cosine of 45 degrees and sine of 45 degrees, or cosine of pi over 4 radians and sine of pi over 4 radians. By using the symmetry of this circle, if you draw this 45-degree angle and you get this point, the value of the x-coordinate has to be equal to the value of the y-coordinate. So both x and y in this case have to be equal. So essentially, if you go up to this equation and we make the assumption that at 45 degrees, or pi over 4 radians, x has to be equal to y, what happens within this equation itself? What I'll do is rewrite this as x squared plus x squared is equal to 1. You could also write it as y squared plus y squared is equal to 1, but I'll choose x. So here we have x squared plus x squared is equal to 1. And that's the same thing as saying 2x squared is equal to 1. If you want to solve this for x, which means you're solving for cosine of 45 degrees, what you do is divide both sides by 2. So x squared is equal to 1/2. And then to solve for x, you would take the square root of both sides. So I'll take the square root of both sides. And the positive solution that we get is the square root of 1/2, which is the same thing as the square root of 1 over the square root of 2, which is the same thing as 1 over the square root of 2. And if you rationalize the denominator by multiplying the top and bottom by the square root of 2, what you get is root 2 divided by the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the same thing as 2. It gives you root 2 over 2. What does all this mean? It means that cosine of 45 degrees, or really cosine of pi over 4 radians, is the same thing as the square root of 2 over 2. So here's a proof as to why this is true. In general, it's really difficult to get exact values for sine or cosine at given angles, but here this is an important angle, 45 degrees, and we figured out cosine at this angle. For all other angles that we use, like 30 degrees and 60 degrees, they can be proved in a similar manner, and it's better just to use them as a reference once you know them. So you don't have to recreate this proof every time. We'll just note that as a fact, cosine of pi over 4 is equal to root 2 over 2.